I thought that you could sense that with your Peter Tingle.
Please stop saying tingle.
Peter Tingle.
Peter Tingle.
Peter Tingle. Peter Tingle.
Presents Spider-Man Far From Home. Yeah, I know, she's giving me the Peter Tingle. Sorry. Hey. Welcome back to Blood and Black Rum Podcast. I'm Ryan from closeploitation.com, and I'm joined by my co-host, Martin.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Actually, you know what, too? I was thinking about this the other day, because I've been watching a lot of On Cinema at the Cinema, and I like how I keep calling you co-host, like, you know, you're co-host, right? And in On Cinema at the Cinema, there's always this running gag that, like, Greg is just the guest. Like, he's a special guest on every single episode. That reminds me, like, one time I should just be like, you know, let you take it and be like, hey, I'm your host, Martin, with, you know, co-host Ryan. It'd be great.
Or just, like, correspondent. Here with our correspondent for the day.
That's right.
You know. We don't want to steal all of Tim Heidecker's jokes.
You know what? No, they actually stole ours. No, I'm just kidding. They've been around for a lot longer. But what I was thinking too. Remember, we used to do like you hosting the show, like literally like being the one that guides the show, like how I normally am. We did that for a couple episodes, and you actually got to like pose the questions and be the one that, you know, like how I always jump in and I'm like, all right, and moving on. Like you got to do that part of it. Would you want to do that again?
I don't know.
Okay. Well, we won't start with today's episode.
I feel like it's only been on, like, when it's the episodes that I've really pushed for.
That's
like,
true. That's
like,
true.
Like,
know.
We're doing fucking Dread. Why? Because that's what we're doing.
Yeah, that's true. Like, the ones that you are more well-versed in.
Do you really want me taking the lead on, like, okay, next time we're doing some obscure Jello, so,
you've never seen it or know about it, but you can lead it. Yeah, no, probably not. It makes more sense. Yeah, it does. So today
I gotten cozy being number 2.
Yeah,
I've accepted my role.
That's okay.
So I don't run the social media.
That's true too. Yeah, you let me do all the work. So today we are back with an episode where we had planned to do this all along. I mean, it's just like been a long time coming, and if you've noticed, we're actually doing 2 episodes back to back. Normally, we don't do that every single week. We kind of strayed away from that after a couple of years of doing that and became extremely hard to do every single week. But we had planned on doing another episode for a Marvel movie because we always cover the superhero movies now. And we just didn't have time to get to it with all of the Child's Play muckety-muck. If you listen to the last episode, you know that we weren't able to see Child's Play in theaters. And so there's a whole lot of scrambling to get stuff done. So we're back today. New episode, even though it's only been a week. And we're talking about Spider-Man Far From Home.
Spooderman.
You know, we've done pretty much every single Marvel movie now from like phase 2 through 3. And so we just thought, you know, we can't miss it now. As we're starting on a new phase in the Marvel movie franchise, we can't miss out on one.
Is this technically part of phase 4?
I don't really think it is as far as they announced at Comic-Con. I don't think, like, Spider-Man it's, like, in between, it's, like, 3.5.
I think they need to stop referring it to, like,
phases, and just, like, let it go as, call them arcs or something. I don't know. But, yeah, phases makes it even more convoluted, I think.
Well, it just sounds stupid. Like, okay, run to the new phase, guys, you know.
Set your phasers to stun. That sort of thing.
Yeah.
But
we're going to be... Well, speaking of Phase 4, what do you think of all the announcements of what Disney's got in the works?
Well, they got a lot of stuff in the works. I think that what we saw with Comic-Con, especially with Phase 4, is that most of the stuff that Disney has in the works is TV shows. So you've got a lot of TV shows coming out that is going to really complicate the entire Marvel universe. Because at a certain point, you're like... Now I'm stretched real thin. I got to go see the movies in theaters. I got to watch the TV shows. How am I going to know when in Avengers 4 actually, I guess it's technically Avengers. I don't know what we consider. Is it Avengers 3 parts 1 and 2? Do we consider it? Or is it Avengers 4 that we're on now? I have no idea. But anyway, the next Avengers film, what if they're like, you know what? Remember what happened in WandaVision episode 4? Yeah. This entire
do you
thing
think-
happens
do you
during
think,
that.
Do you think they'll just go the DC route with the WB shows and be like, nah, that shit ain't can't.
Well, I actually think that they're going to really tie in, or at least have the same actors from...
I mean, I don't think with the TV shows, it's going to be like, oh, you got to pay attention to this. I think it's just pay attention to the arc, so something that happens in, like, an arc of a show might lead to something. But at this point, no, it's getting to, you know... And plus, how many people have, like, fucking Disney Plus? It's kind of like...
Well, yeah, it's going to be a thing where you're going to have to decide if you want.
They're trying to drive subscriptions. It's kind of like with CBS with their CBS All Access, putting Star Trek on there. Like, hey, we know a shit ton of people love Star Trek, but if you want to see the new stuff like Picard and Discovery, you're going to have to pay for that, you know?
Yeah.
Pay for that online subscription.
I mean, I think we're getting to a point where, remember when they said they didn't want the films to be as convoluted as trying to get into comics, where you're, at a certain point, you're like, how do I get into this? Like, it's been so long running. Now, you're at sort of at that point again with TV and movies.
Well, I mean, I think for the shows, they picked the ones that, like, Wanda and Vision.
WandaVision, yeah. You're,
like, who the fuck cares?
Yeah, right. Like, you don't want to set an entire film with them. No,
or a TV show. That just sounds perplexingly...
I don't know. I mean...
stupid.
I think the ideas are there. I just think that we're starting to get really convoluted, and I don't know that people are going to follow this through
honestly, the only one that I'm like, kind of like, yeah, is the new Doctor Strange and Thor. Not Thor, Blade.
I'm actually excited for the What If series that's coming out, the animated series. That's like, what if this happened in like, just not in continuity, but what if this happened? What if that happened?
So just do Marvel Zombies as the next phase,
right? Basically,
at the end of this, when the Avengers have like their fight, they just zombie outbreak.
That's kind of
like then phase 5 is just Marvel Zombies.
That's kind of like what they're doing with What If. It's just like, what if, Spider-Man was someone else, or what if, someone died in continuity. So I'm excited for that one. I'm interested to see what they do, because I'm always one of those people that is like, it's kind of obnoxious to me how fans read this comic series, and then if there's a major change to it, they get very upset about it. Like,
well, what adaptation has ever been like pound for pound? The same exact thing.
Yeah. I get annoyed, especially reading stuff like reading the new Nightwing comic series, and they're trying to change Nightwing around a little bit, where they had him have amnesia after getting shot in the head, and he became Rick instead of Dick.
The tried and true comic plot to like try to fix shit.
No, but I totally get it that people are like, well, you know what? I read Nightwing because I like Dick Grayson. But at the same time, you're like, do you want to read like Dick being able to beat up enemies for literally every single goddamn comic book that you read? No, you gotta have something a little different. So that's why I like stuff like What If, where it just is sort of looking at things that can't occur in the canon. They're just changing things around. So I like that.
Do it like a Twilight Zone, like have like a Rod Sterling type just come out and be like, what if Thor happened to be the one to die?
I'm hoping it's sort of like that. Yeah, I mean, and it spans from the comics. They actually did something with that with the comics, but I'm excited to see what they do with that one specifically. The rest, I could do without. And you were right with Blade. With Blade, that sounds cool and everything, and I like Blade as a character, but they should have just gotten Wesley Snipes back, because he hasn't really aged at all.
Well, and a funny thing too, with when they had the Netflix series with like Luke Cage and Daredevil.
Yeah.
Blade, though, I think it's cool that he's having a movie again with the world that they built up. He's got to be like in a TV series.
True.
And then maybe show up in like the Avengers film to like help. Like, because it'd be more interesting to see him like do like vampire hunting and shit like in a TV series. Yeah. It'd make more sense.
Yeah. I don't know.
Kind of like the same thing with like Luke Cage and Daredevil. It's like their stories led to be more of a TV series than like a movie arc.
But there were some cool announcements at Comic-Con. I'm excited to see what's coming. And, we're starting Phase 4 soon, so in 2020. So it'd be interesting to see what that brings and how it changes up the universe. But right now, we're talking Spider-Man Far From Home, which is effectively more of the same for Spider-Man. As you know, we liked Spider-Man Homecoming, and actually it was probably one of our favorite films of the Marvel series from the last year. And Spider-Man Far From Home seems to be an extenuation of Spider-Man Homecoming. I'll tell you one thing that really stands out about Spider-Man Far From Home, and you can tell that Peter Parker genuinely is far from home. It's that nice Eurocinema pinkish hue that the film has as they're going to Italy. Really nice display of, the pinkish, 70s-esque Italian film filter that they use on
really
this one.
Two things. A really missed opportunity to have the B-52s roam.
Yeah, that would have been good for that initial.
Even though they're going to Venice, still.
You know what I did like about that? Oh, well, first I'll let you finish your second point, because you got your one in, and I kind of butted in there, and you didn't get your second point in. So what was your second point about that?
Also, another great missed opportunity for some nice Italo disco.
Well, you know what, though? We do get some of that.
Well, I was expecting, what I wanted is, as they're flying into here, Gloria, Gloria.
Well, what I did like about that, and that's what I was going to say about your first point, is that I do like how, as they go to different places, they didn't go with just, the very stylistic Marvel pop songs or rock songs, for the most part. There's one instance of it. But they didn't really go with that whole, what you would expect for the soundtrack of just being here's a 80s pop song, here's a 70s rock song. They really did try to.
No, but they did that in Endgame when they had the Kinks Supersonic shit. It's
it's
kind of that's a weird choice. I like it. I'm one of two people probably in the audience that knows that song, but
here they even went a little bit further by actually picking songs that go along with the locales that they're in. So I did like that about the film, especially as we're going to Venice and they've got a classic Italian, pop song playing at the time.
Should have had some Goblin.
Yeah. A little Suspiria in there.
Yeah. No, I was thinking more one of their better soundtracks, Tenebrae.
Tenebrae soundtrack, yeah. I did like that, though. I like that touch of making this feel like a film that's not just another Spider-Man movie. It's something else. They're literally going someplace else.
Wouldn't it have been funny if they did do I'm gonna do the Suspiria music, and instead of hearing Goblin, you get to hear Tom York just going.
And the subtitles just say random vocalizations. Yeah. Yes, that would have been nice. Just actually, we got Tom York to do this one too. Anytime you're in Europe,
he's doing a lot. He just did another film score.
Oh yeah.
Can't remember if it's for Midsummer or something. He did something.
I don't think it was for Midsummer, but yeah. Interesting. Well, I'm glad they didn't go that route, but I did like the actual choices they did, especially as we're the beginning of the film. You're kind of first we're set in New York City, and we should mention too that we missed the first 5 minutes of this movie.
Oh, that was
there's a little clusterfuck at the local movie theater, and a long ass line because of the Lion King. So we missed the first couple minutes of the movie. We missed all the trailers. We missed the Marvel opening.
I don't know how people are receiving the Lion King. I see the reviews are very mixed to negative. So all those people who decided to basically go see a shot-for-shot remake where Jon Favreau's just sitting in the background counting his money.
Yeah.
Just cue up Gilbert Gottfried yelling, "You fool!"
Yeah.
That's
But so we missed the first couple minutes. We didn't see the Marvel opening or anything like that. But once you get into it and Peter Parker's in New York, he's going on his school trip, and they set off for the actual European part of this trip, European vacation style. I liked the whole setup there and getting away from New York City, getting away from the normal Spider-Man locations was a nice touch for this movie. And it's one of the biggest things that sets it apart from Spider-Man Homecoming, because ultimately you could have had another movie that was just exactly the same as Spider-Man Homecoming, just riffing on it and changing the plot a little bit. But I think Spider-Man Far From Home, with its plot line and its moving away from New York location, I think that gives it a little bit more more room to play and allows it to be a little bit more experimental than you're used to for something like a Spider-Man movie. I'm thinking of like the Raimi movies, the Spider-Man 1 through 3, which were pretty much always based in the same setting, and they didn't really change a whole lot between...
Same block of Manhattan.
Yeah, basically, like, it was all the same. So, this one gets away from that a little bit with a more experimental approach.
At the same token, they chose all the spots that's been done a billion times. Mm-hmm. Where are we going? Oh, we're going to Venice. Yeah. Because that hasn't been done a billion times. We're going to London. Because that hasn't been done, a billion times. So Prague was pretty cool.
Prague is different, yeah.
Instead of going to,
Paris.
But at the same time, when they're like running around, like when the carnival stuff's going on, it is all I could think of is like the ending of Life Aquatic with Steve Zissou and like after the film festival. I think that was like more like in Portugal, but it still kind of looks really similar. Mm-hmm. So I was expecting at some point Bill Murray to come like just sadly walking out, like lighting up his joint and his blunt and just being like,
yeah,
here we go again.
I mean, I think that what I liked about Far From Home, like immediately, was that it felt more risky than your usual Marvel film, and it felt like, especially for a Spider-Man film, because something like Doctor Strange is in itself risky. That's like picking Doctor Strange as a character to base an entire movie on is risky in itself. But for Spider-Man, there aren't very many risks that you can take with Spider-Man if you're setting it in the same location and you're having him, do the exact same things that he would normally do in any Spider-Man story.
Sure you can. It's risky by having Mysterio.
Yeah, that is true. Yeah, it's risky to have Mysterio. So I think, but that ties into everything about Far From Home. Because they go a little further.
I was going to say, because they totally changed his backstory. It's not like what it is in the comics. So,
I don't know Mysterio very well from the comics. So.
He's like a failed magician or something, or like a makeup artist or some shit like that.
So, basically, sort of like what his character is in this, but a little teched up in this one. Mm-hmm. Instead of being just like a failed illusionist or something like that, he's even more so like with the tech rich.
I know, but the way he was kind of flying around, it's like, oh, that basically could have been the Green Goblin, but
Yeah.
Don't want to do that yet.
But you're right, though, with Mysterio, too. That's just yet another risk that they take with Spider-Man Far From Home that feels like, they were really trying something different in this one. And you can say that, we say all the time, we sort of have superhero fatigue at certain points. But when you get something like this, which is sort of refreshing and different from what you would be expecting from a film of this nature, I think that it really works and shows why Marvel is leading the pack in terms of making superhero movies, even though we're like, what is it, like 27 movies in or something ridiculous like that. They're still leading the pack and taking risks, and you just wouldn't see this from a DC film. And we actually
speaking of,
we talked about the DC films when we were watching this movie, because one of the things that I felt was sort of that I won't get into that yet because I have to preface it a little bit. Right, I have to give the whole backstory before I jump right into bashing DC again, because everybody's going to listen to this and they're going to be like, yeah, they fucking bash DC every time they do a Marvel film.
Wow.
But
try doing it without your little
little hiccup there. Yeah, sorry, excuse me. So I was thinking when I was watching this movie, and you go through like the first part of the film with Mysterio, and they set up the whole storyline of there's these 4 elementals in this area. They've been coming to destroy Earth, and originally the fire elemental had destroyed Mysterio's Earth in Earth 833 or whatever.
Yeah, Mysterio's from a different time.
A different universe. Yeah. That pretty much has Peter Parker's Peter Tingle going off immensely as he's figuring out that there's alternate universes. But so they're bringing up these 4 elementals, and the whole setup is really, really mundane and like it's just kind of thrown out there. Because part of it is because Peter's also brought into this as sort of a third wheel. And they're like, we need your help, Peter. Mysterio can't do this alone, so we need your help. And, S.H.I.E.L.D. brings him in as this other person that can help out with Mysterio. So everything's kind of thrown at Peter, and likewise it's thrown at the audience as well.
And they half-assed explain, too, about like, well, why? Like when Peter's like, because he doesn't want help. He's on vacation. Just like every other good person who's like getting a call from work while they're on vacation. It's like, no, fuck you.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation.
Not answering. Yeah.
So, but he's like, what about Thor? And they're like, off-world. And then, you know.
Yeah, he says Captain Marvel,
and
don't
she's
even
like,
mention her.
Yeah. No, but he says somebody else. Like, I don't know if it was Hulk or something.
Yeah, I think it was Hulk or something like that, yeah. I can't remember what he was doing, but, they do...
You think, though, if it was this crisis where these elementals are going to destroy Earth, Fury would be getting on the horn.
They'd be calling in some other people.
Yeah. Not just, okay, this new guy I've never met before, but he's from a parallel universe.
Yeah, we're going to get him to...
Him, and we'll have Spooderman, the 14-year-old kid who's, The
only thing that I can think of with, like, Mysterio is that they're having Mysterio because he proclaims that he knows the elementals because they destroyed his world. And so, first of all, you have to think, like, do I want this guy whose world was destroyed by this fire elemental to be, like, the last protection against him here? Probably not. Like, I don't want, like, Mysterio sounds like a failed superhero on his Earth, so he came here to this Earth to help out. And
if anything, he looks like Aquaman with that, like, his suit in this one, with the way they, like, neoned it up super.
Yeah. Like, I don't trust Mysterio to be the saving grace of humanity. And not only that, but also bringing Peter's entire school trip to Prague to potentially be blown to smithereens by a fire elemental that just happens to be there as well, putting them all in danger. But I did, so with that, they really go through the motions of, like, giving you a
Oh, no, it was Doctor Strange, and he's like, and they said unavailable. And what they meant by when they said Doctor Strange unavailable is, if it doesn't have to do with magic, space-time continuum shit, don't bother him. Benedict Cumberbatch is just sitting in, his sanctum, just being like, there's a giant monster out. Like, if, like, Loki came back and, like, was leading, like, alien hordes, he'd be like, nope, nothing to do with space and time.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah, that's right. They did say Doctor Strange.
Call me when it's something, mystical.
Yeah. But the whole elementals thing just is really, like, rattle off to you. It's like, yep, there's 4 elementals.
And they put no effort into the design. It's literally just like, fire, boo, and like, oh, I'm the water monster,
Just like typhoons of water shooting up. Like, Japan's seen worse than that.
Yeah.
Than the water monster. Japan's had their fair share of typhoons that have looked more menacing than the water monster. So yeah, all of that, I was like, when I was watching this, I was like, this is like extremely cheesy, and it seems straight out of DC. Like, that's like DC's final monster. And like, yeah.
Bad CGI.
Yeah, bad CGI elemental things. And like,
what would have been funny if they did on purpose made like those elementals like in like pixel art or something, like,
oh yeah,
like 8-bit, like like, I'm the fire monster. Yeah. It's like, oh no, and then
yeah. But the thing so I was like sitting there, and that's like the first half hour or so of the film is like leading up with those elementals.
Even longer. It's like 45 minutes.
45 minutes. Meeting Mysterio, and even with Mysterio, you, like, when you first meet him, you get like this really truncated explanation of who Mysterio is. Like, and then even so with that too, Jake Gyllenhaal sitting there just like with his beard and mustache in the dark, just rattling off his backstory and being extremely nice to Spider-Man. It's just like all of it is like leading up to, you're like, wow, this is straight out of a DC film which has like no depth to it. It's just a very shallow imagining of monsters. And at that point you're like, oh, they didn't want to waste another Spider-Man character, like another villain or anything on this film. They just went with like this really generic, like, north, south, east, west fire.
Well, you knew Mysterio was a villain, though, right?
Actually, I didn't. So, because I don't know Mysterio at all. So, I even watching the film throughout that first part, I didn't know that he was a villain. So, I was just kind of going along with it. I was like, okay, it's new.
You couldn't tell by like, Peter, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
No, don't give me the glasses, Peter. Please, no. Tony gave them to you.
Yeah. No, I mean, I guess I really didn't put it together, especially in the beginning there, with not knowing who Mysterio is, and I think that's part of the idea behind this film, is a lot of people aren't going to know who Mysterio is if they're coming in as casual movie viewers. You know, they're not the comic book readers. They're just the people who have viewed movies before. The movies. So I think that was the intention, is to make Mysterio look really like he is working with the team. So I was in this, and I was like, this is like not... I was super disappointed. I was like, for 45 minutes, I'm like, this seems really shallow of a Spider-Man movie, especially after Spider-Man Homecoming. I was like, this is like, you know, the lamest villains series since, you know, Batman versus Superman. And so...
I don't know. I think Justice League is worse.
Maybe. Yeah. Has it worse. It's really up for grabs.
I mean, it's debatable, but at least, you know, as bad as Luthor is and as boring and pedantic as, you know, their bastardization of Doomsday, Steppenwolf is just like, this is it?
Yeah.
This is it?
Yeah, that is true. That is true. He's pretty bad. But, so I would, like, for the whole thing, I was thinking, like, this is like a DC movie. This is not going well for Spider-Man. And
Stan Lee's dead for one movie, and it's all gone to hell.
I was just not impressed with what I was seeing. And then once you get to that point where you find out, okay, Mysterio's been working with this whole rich team. He's got fucking drones that project a whole...
Well, they're not rich. They're former Stark employees who are disgruntled because...
No, they're pretty rich, though. He even says, thanks for helping me out because of all you people that are rich. So, like, the people helping him have been able to conjure up enough money to come up with all.
Well,
these
they
supplies.
should be making if the head guys like as we see like a designer of like one of Tony Stark's top drones. Tony better have been paid. Like if he's like head of R&D, you know, he may not be Tony Stark rich, but you know,
yeah, he's probably still.
How'd you like to the whole like Steve Jobs-esque, you know, for like Jake Gyllenhaal being like Steve Jobs the villain, just like, I had this idea, and I was going to walk out on stage and do the Steve Jobs thing, but Tony Stark stole it from me and did the whole Steve Jobs thing.
And he called it fart.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a nice touch because...
I was expecting him to have, like, a turtleneck on.
Yeah,
and you know, like, rolled.
He's almost like that in its own way, though. I mean, even so, like, with the beard and mustache combo that Jake Gyllenhaal has going on and the rugged good looks... Yeah, it's great, but I could see a turtleneck going on there. That'd be the best touch to that. No, I like the whole spiel and everything, and that's when I was thinking. I was like, okay, great. This is not, you know, just a DC really terrible villain thing going on here. It's meant to be this way, and that's why all of the monsters look like shit in comparison to like some of the other things, because they're projections of terrible monsters of a bad idea,
and they're choreographing it all.
And they're choreographing it all.
I just love too, like Jake Gyllenhaal when he's like, and all the shit that I told, like I want, like when he's like thanking all the people, like I want to thank you for your drone design, you for the program, and I want to thank you for writing the story. It's just so fucking stupid, but it's believable enough for Fury and those idiots to believe it. Like, I'm from an alternate Earth and there's these 4 elementals, you know?
Yeah, it's almost like riffing on what DC does. And we said that the guy who's doing the projections is probably a disgruntled DC worker who was hired by Jake Gyllenhaal's crew to make this new projection element. And they were like, you know what you did on DC's movies? That'd be perfect for this really terrible harebrained scheme that we've got going on.
I do love, too, like, just how Jake Gyllenhaal, when they're talking about, like, oh, Spider-Man, now I gotta kill him. And when I kill him, I'm blaming you for letting that drone lose its projector and leave evidence.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it. I'm blaming you. His death is on you.
What you said in this, and I think it's true in some ways, and I don't necessarily agree with you on all of what you said, but... You thought that Jake Gyllenhaal, really, in this film as Mysterio, has probably one of his most
charismatic
and effective deliveries for like a villain or any character that he's played recently. And I think that's true in some ways. Jake Gyllenhaal
he's a delight in this film.
Yeah. I mean, he tends to as a actor, he tends to really go for the low energy.
Dry.
Dry, dramatic.
Near Luke Wilson, but not as comedic. Just whiny. No, not like just kind of, if he's not like being like Luke Wilson, like, oh yeah, that's kind of how things. He's kind of being whiny. Always like that's like I just think of him in like just The Day After Tomorrow, just the entire time being like a wet blanket, just like. Everything's going to hell.
I do agree in some ways that like he's really low energy a lot of times. He's playing a very dark, dramatic parts most of the time. And I don't think he's necessarily a bad actor. I think he's a good actor. But you're right, like the parts that he picks and he's continually cast for tend to be on the lower side of the spectrum of like energy level. And here in Spider-Man Far From Home, he gets to ratchet that up like tenfold because he's almost going for like the Jeff Goldblum aspect of his character.
Yeah, you know what? Nah, that's a good comparison.
Yeah,
I do. I think it's almost kind of like it almost to me seems like an in-joke critique. Like, Jake, we know you played like these low energy guys who are always constantly. So when you're playing up the hero, being the hero, you're gonna be low energy. Like, no, Peter, what do you want to do? What do you want to do to be happy? And then we flicks a switch to villain. Like, this is all bullshit. Just
Yeah. He really gets to like. And you're right, even when he is Mysterio, the good guy, he's really low energy. He's sort of like the sad schmuck whose entire world was destroyed.
Also very, like, stereotypical, like, kind of like 50s, like, oh, like, you know, superhero, like, you know.
Yeah. I'll save you, you know, like, flying in.
And you know, saves, like, a kid, and he's like, remember, kids, eat your vitamins, and, you know, pay respects to your parents and the government.
Yeah.
I'll see you.
Yeah, he is very, like, because he's really trying to spread that that good-hearted nature that he's got going on. So you're right, and that does show up like at the beginning of the film in Mysterio, and then once he's actually revealed to the audience, it's great. It's like right from there things start to pick up entirely. So I guess you could say, is that a flaw for Spider-Man Far From Home? That for the first 45 minutes or so, it's actually kind of hard to get into the rhythm of the film because you're thinking like, this is kind of a waste of villains and stuff like that with the elementals. It's really not that interesting of a arc for that part of the film. Is that a flaw for this movie, or
it slows it down? But I think that it's got enough comedic beats, just like the Homecoming. Though they don't in all the Marvel films, they don't all work. But there's enough there to kind of make you laugh. To laugh and distract you from the slow pacing of the film that, you know, you're like, oh, okay, you know.
Yeah. The one thing that I would say about the beginning of the film that I think throws it off just a little bit is I did not love the whole, like, teen romance thing that they had going on. It felt a little bit too much like a soap opera-y teen comedy sort of thing that they had. And when I say teen, I mean more like Degrassi level of
you know what? There's his friend and his like girlfriend that they like get together on the plane. That's funny because that's, you know, like that's like so stereotypical like high school. Like, I'm not interested in you. Like, you're forced to be stuck together for like 5 hours, and you find out, yeah, we're dating now. Yeah, hey babe, yeah. Oh yeah, you know, we really got to talking, and you know, we really have a lot in common. You know, and.
I mean, that was funny, but I feel like some of that whole opening of, and especially like Peter, won't he with MJ and really trying to, you know, get...
Well, having that one like douche bro guy who's not even really a douche bro, but he just kind of looks like Brad or whatever.
Brad Davis.
Yeah, they get, what a douche bro name too.
Brad. Yeah, no,
but like just like having him was like, that was fucking pointless.
Yeah.
Like, he's so, you know, he's the 16-year-old who's ripped like a fucking football star. He's, you know, MJ's just gonna be falling all over herself just to get Brad. Brad's so cool. Brad's so nice. Peter, you got nothing. Which is funny, like, oh, Peter, you're such a dork. It's like, yeah, he's like antisocial and a dork and doesn't know like anything about social cues. But like when that one scene where he takes off his shirt, it's like,
yeah,
you know, he's not wearing like a baggy enough shirt to be like, oh, I didn't... Really? God damn, he's ripped.
Yeah.
You know, like, no, you would notice, like, you know, Tom Holland, like...
Yeah, you could pretty much tell, even with him wearing, like, regular shirts, that he's got a nice musculature underneath that shirt. And the other thing too with that whole like the whole will he won't he with MJ is that like from the first film, Spider-Man: Homecoming, that MJ is not even interested in anybody that is like Brad. Like there's just no connection or spark between her and Brad.
Well, it's not even like Brad's a bad guy, but
he's not a bad guy.
No, he wants to be with MJ, but like the whole thing too is like just it didn't need to be like the whole scene where Peter's like getting forced by the like German lady to try on the new Spider-Man suit, and he walks in, he's like, "Whoa, dude, if you want to hook up with like random chicks on this trip, that's your business, but I'm not gonna let you like trick MJ because of that." Yeah, you know,
and he snaps a photo of it. I mean, I just felt like the whole like Degrassi romance thing, the teeny bopper sort of ideas that were going on. I didn't love it so much because though I understand that Peter Parker is a teenager living out his high school life, I would rather them not go into that whole scenario as much, you know, not focus on it so much.
Yeah, while Aunt May's being like, yeah, you go out there and try kissing her. Aunt May's getting on with Happy.
That's true. Happy and apparently a revolving door of other people on Tinder that Happy didn't know about.
Marissa Tomei's got to keep busy. You know?
That's why she wanted him to go on the trip.
I would love to be part of that Tinder. You know.
Yeah. Well, go to Brooklyn. Go find her on
Queens.
Go find her on Tinder. Nah, but that was the only thing about the beginning of the film. I don't think that it's a flaw so much that the film is slow at the beginning when it's setting up that whole Mysterio aspect, because once you get past that point, you kind of look back on it and you're like, oh, okay, that's what they were doing there. And so it's sort of a revelation where you can forgive what they had to do.
Yeah, but at the same time, like I said, like the humor kind of keeps it paced.
The beat's coming.
At the same time, though, like the teachers, I didn't find like anything they did to be funny.
I thought Starr was kind of good.
No, I feel bad
for him because he's like a 40-year-old guy playing a 60-year-old teacher in this film.
Like outside like that scene in the plane where like the one teacher's like, I'm taking a fucking Ambien, and Martin Starr has to like they conjure up the whole like perfume idea, like try to get Peter to sit next to MJ, and he's like, he's like, hold on, perfume allergies. These are really serious, Peter. I know. Here, we'll move all, and screws up the seating because of it. That's like outside of that. Once they like get to Europe and the stuff, like it's just. I found them like all the
grating, a little grating as it.
But at the same time too, like the whole idea, like Peter's got a rich guy in school who makes fun of him for being poor, because that's not a tight cliche of having like the rich kid making fun of the poor kid.
Yeah. So you didn't like it. So you really weren't into a lot of the. I mean, you said that some comedy aspects were.
I liked a lot of the comedy, but there's like parts like in the film that are just like totally ancillary and like didn't need to be there. Brad being there doesn't need to be there. Goes back to the same thing with Homecoming. Whoever the hell plays like the rich kid who hates Peter but he loves Spider-Man.
Yeah.
He isn't fucking
Flash, right? You're talking about Flash? Yeah. Tony Rivolo.
Yeah. Like he doesn't. Yeah, he doesn't fucking need to be there and like having his like little moments and stuff.
And they actually give him a really weird beat at the end of the film where they come home and his dad couldn't be there. Like they didn't.
No, his mom. He's like, oh, mother's not here.
Yeah, couldn't come in. It's like so weird, like because that whole it's like almost something got cut in that aspect because you're supposed to have like this emotional.
Yeah, but that's like the same thing too. They always do that, like where the rich kid's always like a pompous ass, like then like you find out like, well, he just doesn't get enough attention.
Yeah, I felt like it was a weird placement of that because nothing else had been brought up about that throughout the entire film. So to have that one moment at the end of the film where they brought that up was a little strange.
But I mean, like I said, these are like, basically what I'm doing right now is like nitpicking.
Yeah, you're nitpicking.
They're not major flaws or anything, but they are just like after watching it's like little things. It's like, really, come on, let's go. Like change it up a bit. Mm-hmm. More Marissa Tomei, more Jon Favreau.
Would you want her to go to Italy with him?
Oh, I would love Marissa Tomei as a chaperone. Like they go to like a nice beach or something.
That'd have been nice.
Peter, how's your tingle?
It is unfortunate that Marissa Tomei is in all of these movies, but just for a very short amount of time.
Just like
she's like a bookend. Yeah. She's just like there for a couple minutes throughout the movie, and that's it. They should do more with that. It should be like have her do something else in the movie too. Like, just a whole subplot, Marissa Tomei doing stuff.
Well, that's what I want. I want to see, like, while they're on vacation, what Marissa Tomei and Jon Favreau are up to.
Yeah.
You know, like, what dates are they going on?
What'd they do?
What did
they go see a movie?
Did they go get shawarma?
So you want, like,
I want a rom-com with those two.
You want, like, a Woody Allen type movie with Marissa Tomei and Happy.
Yeah, I want Annie Hall, but with Jon Favreau and Marissa Tomei. Yeah. That's what I want, you know. Yeah.
I mean, in some ways, Spider-Man Far From Home gets to that point with, like, little artsy touches it's got. So, yeah, they could morph this into a Woody Allen film.
Well, but Jon Favreau, the way he plays is really good. It's not really Woody Allen.
No, it's not.
Do you really want him to be like, just being like stereotypical neurotic Jude? Who's like,
I definitely like Jon Favreau in all the movies that he's in the Marvel Universe because he does have that really nice delivery on his comedic approach that he's really perfected over the years, and especially probably working on some of the comedy films that he's done before. He's really gotten that down to a science. So it's nice to see him show up, even though he's been behind the director's chair for a while. But it's nice to have him come in and play more, especially with Tony gone, to have him more play a sort of father figure to Peter.
Speaking of Tony being gone, how much did you like the whole, like, Tony Stark's gone, we need a new Iron Man, he's been deified?
Well,
reminded me a lot of Superman. It'd be Justice League. Like, now that Superman's gone,
we need somebody to take over.
Yeah, we need someone to.
I mean, I don't mind the fact that the whole idea of the film was passing on those glasses and having Peter Parker and basically having Peter figure out that he made a mistake and then that learn from that mistake in what he needs to do to grow as a superhero. I don't mind that as like a metaphor for growth and Peter getting older and stuff like that, and Tony kind of mentoring from beyond the grave. I don't mind that part of it. But you're right. The whole idea of finding another Iron Man in this movie.
You have one.
Yeah.
His name's War Machine.
Yeah, I just don't love it as an aspect because it actually ultimately just becomes a MacGuffin. Because
not only that too, because then the whole point is at the end, like, I can't replace Tony. No one can replace Tony. I can just be me.
Yeah.
Spider-Man,
Yeah, I mean, it just becomes a MacGuffin because towards the end, nothing actually ends up happening with a Iron Man hero. And the glasses themselves really don't make a difference. So I just felt like it was sort of a waste. I like the mentoring aspect. I like how, and also I did like how they did not treat Tony as a person as like the best. He's not the best person, obviously. He's part of the reason why Mysterio is Mysterio, right? Because he was kind of an asshole in his business life. So I did like how they were showing two sides of Tony, where they weren't just like, yeah, he's fucking awesome. He was a great guy. Yeah. He was Iron Man. He did all this stuff. I did like how they made it so that you had some sort of reservations about Tony as well, because he did great things. He's also an asshole at times, and he sort of helped create the villain in this movie. So I did like that. I just felt like the whole aspect of finding another Iron Man is something that didn't really need to be dealt with in this movie.
Yeah.
This isn't an Iron Man movie. It's a Spider-Man movie. So, I did like the mentoring aspect. I think that was nice. That was a nice touch. The other thing that I did like about this film is that it kind of goes through Spider-Man suits and it kind of changes things up a little bit throughout. Because one thing that I did say is that if Spider-Man is Spider-Man in DC and then he comes to a European country and then all of a sudden Spider-Man's there too with the class trip, that would be a dead giveaway. It was like, well, who the fuck in my class is Spider-Man?
No, it's not Spider-Man, it's the Night Monkey.
Right, which is why I did like that they changed up the suit a little bit and gave him like a black ninja suit almost.
Like a burglar, just,
Yeah, right. Yeah, basically a burglar just sitting on a rooftop. But I did like that, and then changing up the suit even more towards the end as he designs his own. It's another nice touch of him learning from Tony and the mentoring beyond the grave again. So I did like that aspect of it too.
I like that Aunt May packed his suit for him. Because he didn't want to bring a suit with him because he's like, I'm on vacation.
Well, you know what, too? And they did make a good point of him going through, I don't know if it was customs or just his bag being searched, and they found the suit, and,
got that little note from Aunt May, like, you forgot your suit.
Yeah.
Love me.
I did like that because at a certain point, you do have to be careful of, like, who sees your suit. And I would say in this movie, too, Peter is not very careful about not being in costume.
Also, he's constantly, like, talking within earshot of people about, like, what the fuck he's doing.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing that,
no one has actually heard or eavesdropped or anything like that, yeah. But, like, I just liked at the beginning of the film where he's giving that speech to the public, and they went behind the curtain, and he automatically shifts out of his mask. And then
there could have been somebody in that kitchen.
Somebody walks in, and he doesn't know about it, and because they also say that his Peter Tingle's not working, so he doesn't really realize if somebody comes in that he's not aware of. So yeah, he's not super careful about disguising his identity.
You'd think he'd have like with all the Stark-esque bullshit, he'd have like a watch or something where he could have like a watch and just like hit a button and it'll put a suit on for him.
Or like have a perimeter guard too, like if somebody breaches the perimeter, it just automatically comes on or something like that. But yeah, I mean, I think that part of that was sort of leading towards the finale of the film too, that mid-credit sequence that we get about actually somebody knowing his identity and releasing that to the public. Because he's not super careful, and obviously people are taking pictures of him when he's around and stuff. And even MJ, she talks about her suspicions that she was pretty sure that Peter was Spider-Man. So if she's pretty sure that he's Spider-Man, there's got...
No, she said 66% sure. When he's like, yeah, I am Spider-Man. She said, oh, thank God, I was only 66% sure.
But, like, if she's got suspicions, then other people in school have suspicions, too. Because, obviously, again, he was there in D.C., he's in Europe, he's fucking everywhere.
Just off,
Yeah. It's not like any of the other Avengers showed up in Europe to take on Mysterio.
No, they all fucked off. They're like, yeah, we don't have time for elemental bullshit.
Yeah.
That's beneath us.
What did you think of the whole projector scheme to set up like a giant elemental monster that Mysterio uses, though?
Little bullshitty.
I mean, obviously you got to
by little, I mean a lot bullshitty. Like, how do you make holographics that seem so real?
You got to suspend your disbelief a little bit here, I guess. How do you control 5 million little projectors?
I don't know, but like, it's just the idea, like, it feels, because it's so high tech, it feels so real, but it's like, what? How
yeah, especially because, like, Spider-Man gets punched and stuff a couple times.
Yeah.
Like, the whole, I don't know, it does seem like you have to really just suspend disbelief to even believe that it's possible to have a projection like
maybe
that.
If there's also, like, a scarecrow, like, from the Nolan movies... Like aspect
of hallucination.
Yeah, like mind control, like, something like that.
Like they're like all the projectors are spraying like a mind control substance out as well.
So that it, affects your...
Yeah.
Because just like the whole idea of, the projector is just,
But that did remind me a lot of Scarecrow. Especially when...
when he's doing the whole...
When Mysterio brings him through like a whole mind fuck of...
And that was a really cool sequence because the CGI there is really good. Just like in having him go through all these different fucking crazy levels of like mental hell.
Yeah.
It's, again, that's like, that was really cool. That was like very Scarecrow-esque,
Yeah, a nice vivid reminder that Mysterio with his projectors is pretty strong. As an actual person, not so much. And I did like that too, that Mysterio's not really a strong villain. He's not like one of those like ultimate baddies that you get from Batman versus Superman or something where they legitimately have to one-up themselves every time. Like, no, this guy's the strongest. Or like a Dragon Ball, like, he's over 9,000. It's not like that because Mysterio's not super powerful himself. But with the tools that he has, he becomes a force because he's able to kind of navigate around the weaknesses that Spider-Man has. So what did you think of the final fight with him, where he basically calls down like 5,000 different projectors from a satellite,
Stark satellite,
to basically take over the city and
I thought it was convoluted to watch at first with like the whole like Peter fighting the drones and like tying like that was like all like overly convoluted and like kind of hard to see and muddled. But once he got to the bridge and started doing the fighting against Mysterio, it was really good. And I liked the play too of like you think like oh he beat Mysterio and then no Mysterio's next to him with a gun and he's able to break away and
and him finding his Peter Tingle back,
his Spidey sense.
Yeah,
I liked it. I thought that was pretty cool.
I like the whole skydiving element too of actually diving into the projection so you can get through the projection into the just so
like
you
projection world.
Yeah. So you see in between the projectors. I did like that as well. I thought it was an intro, and also him building his like little spider webs that have electrical currents running through them. It was a nice touch of using like Tony Stark's tech against Mysterio as well.
Well, I thought that was a pretty cool. Like I said, like once we got to the bridge, it had like that fight. That was,
and it was also very different from most Marvel finales of like fiery brimstone, otherworldly, dark atmospheres. This was like set in like in daytime, modern city,
right in the middle of jolly old London.
Yep. So you had that whole element of you didn't have to like be peering through fire and flames and embers and stuff like that to be able to see CGI embers to be able to see through everything, which was nice. I like that part of it too, because after a while you start to get sick of seeing the same old finales of basically a video game boss.
I did like too before the final fight, the whole talk that Jon Favreau and Spider-Man have, about Happy telling him about, that Tony wasn't perfect. And, but he was his best friend and he, knew his faults and Tony knew his faults, but that's, what made him and Peter's got to learn from that. And,
Yeah, because...
it was a nice touching moment.
It is nice. And we see that Spider-Man, for all his powers, is still just a kid. I mean,
well, and that's cool because I think it'd be cool to see from now on, like Happy being there to like help guide him because he needs somebody. He doesn't have a mentor anymore, and again, being like a 16-year-old kid, he needs somebody there to be like, all right, this is what you need.
Yeah, and he's not ready like with his life to just be like cast aside the rest of his life because he's a superhero now.
Well, that's why he's so damn, persistent on going on this vacation, even when there's this elemental threat going. I was like, you know what? I'd rather just do what I wanted to do and like just kiss a girl,
be myself and hang out as Peter Parker rather than Spider-Man. Yeah. I like that too because that's always been sort of in the comics for Spider-Man. That's always been sort of his thing is that he's Spider-Man, but he's also more so Peter Parker than some of the other superheroes might be. Like. Batman is always Batman. And he really doesn't have any illusions of being Bruce Wayne besides just being a rich guy that's Bruce Wayne.
A rich asshole.
Exactly. Like, basically, Bruce Wayne is Batman all the time. And his alter ego is more so Bruce Wayne than it is Batman. So, with Spider-Man, it's kind of the reverse. You actually have a human character, who is really hesitant to cast aside his entire life to become a superhero that really doesn't get any time off. Like, even in this one, after Infinity War and Endgame, Spider-Man's like, I need a vacation. Peter Parker's like, I need a vacation. I really need to get away because this has been way too much for me to handle. And I do like that aspect of, you still have him as a kid. He's just not ready to...
I did like, too, like, when he's trying to tell Nick Fury, like, I can't do this, I'm not ready for it. Nick Fury's like, you were in space! And he's just like, wow, that was by accident,
Yeah. You went to space. That's good. That's one of those areas where the comedy works really well.
Yeah.
And the kind of surprising thing is, because they did really get Fury's character down well. And then
I wouldn't even say it was like Fury, it was just Samuel L. Jackson.
Yeah, basically. And then when you get to the end and you find out that it's actually not Fury.
Because you even get to hear like him go, he actually says in this, bitch please,
Yeah. But it's funny because you get to the end and it's not Fury.
It's the Skrull.
Yeah. And they were like, they did it perfectly. They had him perfectly down.
But at the same time, it's like stupid because it's like, oh, it was the Skrull the entire time, and then they're reporting back to Fury because he's just sitting on vacation.
In space.
on a projector in space. So what? What? Why is S.H.I.E.L.D. in space?
And why does Fury get a vacation but Spider-Man doesn't? It's kind of bullshit too.
Well, because he's the boss.
Yeah, it's true.
They get better vacation packages than we do.
Yeah, I thought the actual last scene after the credits was interesting. I don't know that I loved I didn't love that what the implications were for the film, but then I thought about it a little bit and it made sense. Like, you would think that Fury would not really want to put an entire innocent school trip in danger, right? Because I was thinking about that. Like, they brought Peter's entire school trip to Prague.
I don't think he cares. I don't think he cares because he's just more about the objective.
I don't know.
You know,
I feel like they wouldn't put an entire bunch of kids in danger. For
Captain's not there to tell him, like, Nick, that's not a good idea.
Yeah, that's true.
He doesn't have, him and Black Widow's not there, so there's no moral compass guiding that ship at the moment.
He just does it, and he's like, yeah, whatever.
Fuck it. Fuck the kids.
Yeah, fuck the kids. Gotta get.
I don't like that Martin guy that much anyway. So
gotta get this job done. That's what he was thinking.
I
thought it was
or maybe he knew it was bullshit to begin with.
Yeah, maybe. I thought it was an interesting touch. I don't know if I loved it that it actually wasn't Fury, but
I think that was just like unnecessary.
An unnecessary addition.
Yeah, that's like another little like. So what's this supposed to lead to? Like Captain Marvel 2?
I don't know.
They're off into space now, like in the Skrull War or something. Because I don't know where they're going because they didn't announce like a new Avengers thing. Because in my mind, the next step to be now that they're going the route of Tony Stark's dead. Like the next Avengers film would be the new Avengers. Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, it doesn't have. I don't know specifically like an Avengers storyline you could take that and apply to the new Avengers, but new Avengers is just different team with like Spider-Man, Iron Man, well Thor, and like Hulk and some other shit.
Yeah.
So Wolverine.
Yeah, I'm not really sure exactly what is next on the agenda for the series.
And I don't know where that leads Spider-Man too, because you get the whole ending, the ending where he's flying MJ around, which swinging her around and all that bullshit, and then they stop, and no one's even questioning, like, hey, Spider-Man, why are you swinging this like 14-year-old girl around? Yeah. He's doing it right in the middle of Manhattan, Times Square, and like everyone just who the fuck cares? And then we get to hear that there's a news report from the Daily Bugle. And then the greatest decision ever happened.
There you go.
J.K. Simmons is back. We need pictures of Spider-Man, damn it.
It's great because when he comes
I hate that his hair, he's got like his actual hair, like the bald, and then like, on this like hair barely there on the side.
Yeah.
I really wish they went back to like, him with, from the Sam Raimi films.
With the crop top sort of thing.
Yeah, the toupee.
Yeah.
That'd be great, but, we get him coming on like a Bill O'Reilly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And saying, because this is what happened to Mysterio, and he was killed by Spider-Man, and here's, the proof, and they have a video of Mysterio talking, and saying, and Spider-Man shows up and kills him.
You gotta be pretty dedicated.
And then before he dies, Mysterio says, it was Peter Parker, the 16-year-old student from Queens, New York.
Yeah, you gotta be pretty dedicated to bringing Spider-Man down as Mysterio to be dying and shoot this final video.
Well, I don't think he was dying because Spider-Man didn't kill him at the end. He just beat him up. So
yeah,
maybe he's left to the authorities.
Well, he got shot by the projector.
Oh yeah,
yeah. So that was like his demise. But you got to be pretty dedicated to taking out Spider-Man, to be like from beyond the grave, like
fuck you.
Yeah. I still don't like you, Spider-Man.
So and then like they had the reveal and you have Tom Holland like, what? Like So I mean
for the next one, it's just gonna be like Spider-Man. Fake news.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, and that's the theme in this movie is, what's real.
Yeah, what can he believe? What's
real?
It actually would make sense.
And the whole, the whole idea of Mysterio with the projectors is he can control the narrative.
Yeah.
He shows and reveals to people what he wants them to see. That's why we get that whole ending of that's why Spider-Man's the one that killed him,
Mm-hmm.
I just think though it's a little too ham-fisted. A little too like on the nose. Not as bad as like RoboCop with like, Samuel L. doing the whole Fox News shtick, but
right, yeah,
it's still kind of like,
I didn't mind it, but
I might find it interesting if we go down the road and we find out that in the first movie when Michael Mandow showed up at the very fucking end and now he's been nowhere to be seen since Homecoming, like he was a reporter or something and now he's gonna spread fake news,
Right. Yeah. I will be interested to see where they go with this one. But yeah, I think it's going to boil down to something like they're going to just explain it away. Like, no, it wasn't. Peter Parker isn't.
Well, probably just spend like a film of like having to like kind of like with Batman v Superman. Well, we can't have Superman running around because he's like fucking Jesus. Look at all his god powers.
Yeah,
they're gonna bring. That's what they're gonna do. They're gonna bring Peter Parker down to fucking. They're gonna bring him down to Capitol Hill. Yeah. And have a fucking hearing on like, do you think you should be running around as a 16-year-old with this high-tech bullshit and nonsense? We should register you. And it's like, didn't we have that movie? We're having Civil War 2.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great? That's what DC
Civil
would do.
War 2.
That's what DC... What would DC do? Recycle.
Yeah. What else did we talk about? What did we miss? I'm trying to think. Got a lot of it. We got a lot.
There were some scenes that were reminiscent of me too for like Shazam, like stuff like that whole like carnival fight thing. Mm-hmm. That was straight from Shazam. The whole Ferris wheel shit and nonsense.
That's true. It was, yeah. Like
what's it up with these goddamn kids and all that? Just want to go in the Ferris wheel,
No one wants to ride the Ferris wheel.
And get stuck up there.
Yeah.
And then be like, help!
No one wants to ride the Ferris wheel. I never have said.
Let's go on.
You know what ride I would like to go on today? The Ferris wheel.
Nice sweltering day. Oh yeah,
it's
I want to be closer to the sun.
It's the thrill ride for geriatric patients. Is what I would say.
Wow! Look how fast that thing goes.
3 miles per hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's. I mean, I guess that's it. That's all I got. We'll wrap it up. We'll give this film a rating here. On a scale of 1 to 10.
Peter Tingles.
Peter Tingles.
Just go simple.
Peter Tingles. Sure. What would you give Spider-Man: Far From Home?
I'd give it a 7.5.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure I gave Homecoming an 8, and I like Homecoming more. Than this film. So I'd probably give it a 7.5. I liked it. I do think it's a slight step back because of the whole plot and premise is kind of ridiculous and goofy. But if you look at it the way you saw it as like, you're kind of making fun of DC with this harebrained bullshit. I think it does enough, but a lot of the concepts are really just recycled ideas from other films, like the whole like, we're going on a European vacation and all that stuff. And I think what makes it interesting is just the fact that Marvel films are always witty enough to, if they even have like generic, boring, stupid ideas, the humor will carry it through. Mm-hmm. I think though, even though Mysterio's kind of a low-key villain, I think Jake Gyllenhaal's great. Mm-hmm. Him and Jon Favreau are like the highlights of this film for me. They're both delightful. I love Jake Gyllenhaal in this. I think how they utilize Mysterio is a good idea. As you said, though, you really have to suspend your disbelief because there's a lot of bullshit with that idea. But I do especially really liked how that whole sequence of where he's, tricking Peter and making him, it's not hallucinate, but it feels like he is hallucinating. That was really cool. Film's got some nice ideas in there. About Peter growing, but at the same time, a lot of them are old and cliched about like who's going to be the next Tony Stark and all that nonsense. I'm like I said, I'm interested to see where they go from here. I don't really know exactly where they'll go, but I think overall it's a very enjoyable, fun film. Cliched, but it's got the cast. Marissa Tomei's great, Jon Favreau's great, Tom Holland's great. They're all great. Jake Gyllenhaal's great. They're all great. They all do their part terrifically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I would say I like this almost as much as Homecoming, but it's not quite there. So I'd probably give it a 7.5 as well. I think that part of the reason why it doesn't do as well is because the first 45 minutes, though it does serve a purpose once you get further into the film and learn more about Mysterio, I think the first 45 minutes is just a little too slow, hard to get into, especially with the elementals when you come out of nowhere, just getting these 4 elementals that seem really generic.
And especially just like this is right after Endgame.
Yeah.
Where you had, fucking Thanos.
Right, it feels like a letdown, especially at first when you find out about the elementals. So I think that the first 45 minutes or so are a little bit difficult to really get into. Once you get past that, then it really evens out, and it's a nice, fun film. But at the same time, you're right, too, that some of the jokes do fall flat. And I feel like some of the cheesier jokes come from the fact that this is really trying to be sort of a teen comedy romance that just feels a little bit too kiddish in some places. Especially coming after films like Infinity War and Endgame, which were really dark. And though they still had their comedic aspects, they were more mature in the way that they presented those ideas. Whereas Spider-Man Far From Home can sometimes feel like a step back in that sense, that it's a lot less mature, sort of immature in that sense. I like the ideas behind it. I like Mysterio as a character and how they went with him as being not a super strong enemy, but one that has the technology to be a threat. And I did like the whole idea behind the technology, and one of the things that I like the most about him as a character is when he's able to change reality to that one scene with Spider-Man where he changes his whole reality and kind of brings him through a funhouse of nightmares. That reminded me of Scarecrow, and Scarecrow is one of my favorite villains from Batman. And so that tendency to take a look at Spider-Man's nightmares was a pretty cool element of the film. But I just wish that they had gotten rid of some of the more teenage elements of it, MJ and Peter's romance together and stuff like that. I think we're maybe a little bit too much time wasters. And even at 2 hours and 9 minutes, I think they could have cut off a little bit more for this to make it a really, really even-paced film. But other than that, I think everybody does really well. I really like Jake Gyllenhaal in this. He does a really good job. And it's nice to see that they give him some room to do a regular character or one of his more low-key characters, and then he really gets to spice it up towards the end of the film and go crazy with it. So there was a good touch there from him. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I think that it had good ideas. Execution-wise, maybe could have gone a little bit better, but still one of the better series that they have in the Marvel Universe. I think it's one of the more enjoyable ones that they have.
Yeah. Forgot to mention the whole scene where he's in the Netherlands. That's freaking hilarious. After he gets hit by the bullet train in Berlin, and then he wakes up and he's basically in the drunk tank in the Netherlands, and they're all
super nice
and happy. And then when he goes to the market, and he asks the guy where he's calls Aunt May, no, he calls it Happy or whatever, either Happy or Aunt May, I don't know. And he's like, "Where are we?" He's like, "Doverstreetenmasten." What? Oh, he's like, hold the phone, and he gives it to the guy to say it, and then the name of the place shows up in this subtitle.
Yeah,
that was pretty. They
do have good touches there. Yeah. The comedy really works. So. It was a fun experience, and I'm definitely excited to see where they go next with Spider-Man, and where they go next with the franchise, because I don't know. Maybe they've announced it, but I don't know what's next for the next films in this. It's so hard to keep track now that I haven't even been paying attention.
You just wait for them, it's in theater? That's in theaters.
Yeah, basically. It's out. Okay, yeah, we gotta go see it. So, yeah. So what are we doing next time on the show?
I don't know.
I got some cool ones that we can do that maybe would be outside of the horror that we've been covering lately. I've got Django the Bastard that just came out from Synapse. Another one that might be fun is Black Shampoo, which would be a blaxploitation film that might be interesting to do. So there's a couple that we could cover before we do It, which comes out in September. So we've got a couple weeks to get in before we go and see It. So
we'll take a look at those two and see where to go from there.
Yeah. So definitely check us out on any podcasting app. We're on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, pretty much anything that you can listen to podcasts on, we're on it. So leave us a nice review and subscribe to us. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Blood and Black Rum Podcast. We're on Twitter at Blood and Black Rum. And we have an email at bloodandblackrumpodcast@gmail.com where you can give us any suggestions for movies that you think we should cover. And if you want to donate to our show, we have a Patreon account at patreon.com/bloodandblackrumpodcast. Anything you can donate will be helpful. It'll help us keep the show running. And that's a monthly donation, so just keep that in mind when you're donating. Thanks for listening. We'll be back in 2 weeks. That's right, 2 weeks since we did a dual week episodes here. We'll be back in 2 weeks with a new episode. Either a blaxploitation film probably, or a spaghetti western style film. So one of those will be on the docket next time. So hopefully you tune in.
Take care.